Absolutely, Matt. I mean, all of this oil and energy talk, I mean, this is what Dan and I really live for, isn't it? At the end of the day, what we saw over the last several days is an interesting, I think, perspective on just what's moving oil markets today. Essentially, you now have a new Saudi energy minister. Hadley is gone. Now we have a new guy at the helm of not just Saudi Arabia's oil market, but also, of course, how this is going to play out when it comes to OPEC. Saudi Arabia being really the lead voice in OPEC and OPEC Plus as well. And this JMMC meeting is highly expected to go pretty smoothly, given the comments that we saw from the new Saudi energy minister earlier in the week, essentially seeming to give the impression that he was going to continue with current Saudi policy and that we wouldn't see that big of a breakaway. I think it's really significant, Matt, that at the end of the day, the oil prices didn't move on the fact that we got a new Saudi energy minister. They moved on what President Trump is suggesting doing with regards to President Rouhani and whether or not they'll end up having that meeting next week at the UN General Assembly. He's suggested removing those sanctions, or at least easing some of those sanctions on Iran, and that seemed to move the oil market more than the fact that you now have a new Saudi energy minister. Now, let's get out to Dan for more color.
Hey there, Hadley. Well, I'm not standing too far away from you, and as you know, these OPEC meetings are always a very exciting affair. It attracts media from all around the world, and if you take a look around Emirates Palace right now, you can see people gathering, just getting ready for this meeting, which is getting underway in just over an hour's time. So certainly a lot to discuss, and of course, the media here really hungry to get more information from this brand new Saudi energy minister. What we heard in his first utterances earlier in the week was essentially continuity of policy. And that was very important for the oil market. Prices actually rose just off the back of his speech. But again, when you look at the dynamics in play at the moment, prices indeed down about 20% over the past 12 months. What we're looking out for today is any fresh commentary on the future direction of policy from Saudi Arabia. At the same time, these ministers are also dealing with a slew of uncertainties in the global economic dynamic as well, cooling growth in the United States and around the world, also feeding into cooling demand. That's a big issue for the ministers too. We've seen OPEC moving for a second month in a row to downgrade its global demand forecast. That's very significant. The IEA also moving to curb its own demand forecast too. So demand is a serious topic of conversation, particularly when you look at the situation around the world. And then, as you were also pointing out before, what we see now is more uncertainty from the United States. Of course, the hardline US National Security Advisor John Bolton essentially being dismissed from the administration. We've been speaking to analysts this week who have suggested that that could really result in a cooling of tensions across the Middle East. That would be a good thing. However, if reports are true, and it is the case that President Trump could be looking to ease sanctions against Iran, perhaps looking for a Kodak moment and a meeting with the Iranian President Rouhani, then that could result in, according to RBC Capital Markets, up to 700,000 barrels of oil coming back onto the market. Another guest that we spoke to earlier today has also suggested that these OPEC ministers may need to do more to cut production even further, perhaps in the order of around 1 million barrels per day. Of course, that comes as they attempt to prop up prices and deal with these uncertainties, not just coming from the United States now, but also on the economic growth picture and on demand. A few other things to also point out as we get into this meeting. Remember, the Iranians are going to be a key part of the conversation here too, and we're also looking out to hear what the minister in the UAE has to say about the dynamic too. Clearly, compliance is also going to be something that we're focusing on as well. So a lot to discuss as this meeting gets underway, and we promise never a dull moment too. Back over to you.
Hey everybody, it's Hadley Gamble from our new CNBC Middle East Bureau in Abu Dhabi. Thanks for stopping by. Now, to watch more, you can try one of the videos that just popped up on your screen. And don't forget to subscribe.